Good morning. Welcome to National Flooring Equipment's presentation on grinders. How are we doing? Are we live? Are we good? For those that don't know me, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dave Bigham. I'm the Global Director of Training for National Flooring Equipment. I've been in this business pretty much my whole life. This is really all I know. So I'm an industry expert and I'm here to share some of my knowledge about National's equipment and some of the processes to help you guys understand our equipment, and we're going to discuss a little bit about polishing as well today. Our two main grinders at National is the 110 volt Helix and the 110 volt 8274-4. The question's always asked to me, what's different about your grinders? Why are you excited about National's grinders? Everybody has a grinder. Everybody has a grinder, but not everybody has a grinder for that perfect niche that you're looking for. A lot of the grinders on the market start small, and they have 10-inch discs, which maybe are fine for prep, but it doesn't leave the floor very aesthetically pleasing, or it doesn't do a real good job of consistently prepping the floor. So these two models have lots of features that you will not find on the smaller end of grinders on the market. And an example with the Helix, it's modular, which that means you can take it apart. It has a 2-speed motor, so I can do low speed and I can do high speed by just flipping a switch. It also has a light underneath the handle shining down on the surface, which is fantastic. They come with a safety breakaway, both models, for safety. So if the machine was to get away from you, they would shut off immediately. The difference between these two models is the Helix is a passive Planetary, which means the disc spins in one direction, and the 5-inch discs underneath it that attach to that plate just free spin. So this actually allows you to put the diamonds directly on the grind and scrape deluxe plate on the bottom, so it just can grind in a circular motion. Or you can attach your tooling to the 5-inch magnetic discs on the bottom. One thing I really like about National's design is we have magnetic tooling. I'm going to get close just so you guys can see. This is a great feature because the diamonds just snap right into place. You have the option to bolt them through the back, but in general operation, most of the time you can just see how well that's on there. I actually need a screwdriver to get it off. That's how strong those magnets are. Fantastic. So with the Helix, this machine has a shroud that's positionable, so I can move it from one side to the other and edge with it. With the 8274-4, I have a Velcro shroud that's adjustable for height. So as I change my tooling, I can change the height of the rubber skirt that's keeping the dust inside and going to the vacuum. This has a single dust port. The 8274-4 has dual rear dust ports. The Helix is 1.5 horsepower, and the 8274-4 is actually a 3 horsepower grinder. Another super fantastic thing about the 8274-4, you guys, is on the box it has a selector switch that allows you to set it at 15 amps or 20 amps. If anybody's watching this from Canada or on the East Coast where some of the buildings are really old and they still have old 15 amp breakers, I can put that selector switch on 15 amps and the box limits the draw to 15 amps. So if you're stuck in a situation on a job site where all you have is 15 amp breakers, rather than hiring an electrician and waiting around for someone to switch breakers or rewire a box or rent a generator, you simply can flip a switch to 15 amps and limit your machine, which will keep you from tripping breakers. In a newer building like the one I'm standing in, we have lots of 20 amp breakers. I can just flip to 20, get a little more production, and it's going to allow it to pull up to 20 amps. The Helix doesn't have that option, but it only pulls about 12 amps in general operation. So I don't typically ever have a problem with it tripping breakers at the 12 amp draw of that 1.5 horsepower motor. The 8274-4, this machine is actually a true planetary grinder. So that means the disc spins in one direction and the 5-inch discs are forced to be spin in the opposite direction. And this is driven by one Kevlar belt. This belt is easy to access. I can take a wrench with a 9/16 and maybe a flat screwdriver to pry it all apart once I get the bolts out. And the motor and the plate separate. I haven't had to change a lot of belts over the years, but if you hit a dock plate or if you drive it off of the stairs, it certainly can break a belt. It has 3 tensioners, but if you immediately stop it, it can break the belt. But the nice part about the 8274-4 design is if that were to happen, you can take basic tools out of your toolbox and in about 30 minutes or less, you could actually change the belt. It's really simple. So that's a nice feature. You don't have to take it back to the shop. You don't have to send it into a service center. You just have to have some basic hand tools and a little patience and ask some questions, and you're right back to work. With the Helix,
what circumstances would you use the slower speed versus the faster speed on the Helix?
Great question. Both the machines have speed control. The Helix has a low speed and high speed switch. That's located right here. If I was to put tooling like 1-inch carbides or PCDs or micro PCDs where I'm trying to strip off thick epoxy or soft glues, you want to keep your machine turning real slow because the faster it spins, the more heat it generates. And when glue gets hot, it kind of smears and the coating, it'll pop up over the top of it. So if you have the ability to slow it down, it actually increases the versatility range of materials you can take off the floor and how effectively you can take those off the floor. With the 8274-4, it has a potentiometer switch, so it has a speed control, so you can turn it down to 0 and all the way up to 2,000 RPMs and anywhere in between. Typically when I'm grinding, just everyday grinding, I'm on high speed with the Helix, and with the 8274-4, I'm usually at about 1,600 RPMs. That's about 75%. I find at 2,000 RPMs, sometimes that's too fast and it actually keeps the diamonds from working. And anything slower than that, sometimes just for basic grinding, it'll slow you down. So about 1,600 RPMs, which is about 75% of the potentiometer switch that's on there. And the RPMs are actually labeled on there from 0 all the way up to 2,000 RPMs, so you know where you're setting. Both the machines are modular, I talked about, so you could disassemble. And that's nice if you have to access a basement with stairs. Let me express to you guys why I like the 8274-4. There's a lot of people I see that want to polish their kitchen and their dining room and their back patio and their garage. So there's lots of big, huge machines on the market, but you can't maneuver those around. I don't know about you guys, I don't live in a giant mansion. I just live in a little ranch house, slab on grade, and I set out to polish each bedroom and hallways and, you know, my eating areas. And with a bigger machine, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish that. This machine's small enough and compact enough that I could work those areas. So I see the versatility in this in the fact that it's 110 volt, and it'll polish just as good as the big, huge grinders on the market. Obviously, it won't polish as fast or grind as fast, but you know, if you're doing a garage, you just need to get it done. Well, you can get it done with this, and you can do an amazing job. Nobody will know that you didn't use, you know, a 30-inch, $50,000 grinder, which is, you just can't do little bedrooms and hallways and little kitchen areas and living rooms and patios and garages. It's just too much work and it's too much mobilization. This limits that and makes it super versatile. That's part of the reason why I really like it. With the Helix to polish, we're going to talk a little bit about the polishing process, but with the Helix, you can only polish up to about 400. That's a really nice looking floor, but that's not the floor that's in the Ferrari dealership. That's a 3,000 polish floor, which you certainly can do with the 8274-4. But I have lots of guys that are out there doing, you know, small garages and small rooms with the Helix, bathrooms even. I've even seen bathrooms. And another thing that I've really been working on in the last few months is refinishing wood floors, rehabbing old decks with wood that's cut or in real rough shape. I found out how versatile the Helix is for those kind of applications. I'm not going to get into every application, real specific, but if you guys look down at the at your screen, there's National's phone numbers on there and our website, and certainly you're welcome to call in if you guys would like to reach out and speak to me and have a personal conversation about some solutions that you guys really need for problems that you run into on a regular basis, whether it's on this equipment or anything that National manufactures. Certainly call the number. We are chock full of industry experts at National that will answer the phone and answer your questions. And then certainly you can ask to speak to me if you'd like, and we can carry on a one-on-one. Also, you guys can chat in questions. We have the entire marketing team from the VP down behind the camera, actually doing all the real work here. So if you have questions, just chat them in and we'll answer your questions live. Let's talk a little bit about polishing. So when we talk about polishing, typically there's steps. And you don't want to skip steps, you want to follow them in order. And if you're confused about those steps, certainly call in and we'll walk you through it, but I'm going to kind of briefly go through it today. With both of these machines, I'm going to start with a 16 grit full bar diamond like this. This is going to open up the surface. This is going to do the real work, the cutting of the surface, opening it up, giving it some porosity, removing all the sealers. That's what this is going to do. So the next step, which is stuck to my magnet and I can't get it off because I don't have a screwdriver handy. I'm going to do 30 full bar. That's still going to be cutting the floor pretty well, but it's going to start taking the scratches from the 16 grit off the floor. So I'll just load this up as we go. Next, I'm going to switch to metal profiling diamonds. These are pie-shaped diamonds, and they're shaped differently. Closer. These are metal profiling diamonds. We call them pie-shaped because they look like a pie. Did somebody say pie? Outstanding. These are going to start smoothing the floor out, and the same thing, it's going to start taking the scratches out. So I'm going to do 30s, and then my last metal profiling or my last diamond step is going to be 50 metal profiling. So there's my 4 steps for metal. And when you load these machines up, just so you guys know, normally the best procedure is to do 2 diamonds on each holder. 4, if you were to load 4 16 grits up, it really, the machine, the Helix only weighs 206 pounds, and the 8274-4 weighs 388 pounds. The Helix, I think your head pressure is about 130. That's really not enough head pressure for 4 diamonds. It'll actually slow you down, not speed you up. So just put 2 16s or 2 30s across from each other, and then load these with blanks to protect your edges. So remember, just 2 on each holder. So once we've finished our grinding with the metal, we're going to switch to resin pads. There's tons of resin pads out there. Resin pads are like anything else in life. Be real careful of the really cheap ones, because I'm pretty sure the camera can't show you, but this is basically like a plastic impregnated with diamonds. If they're really cheap, just like your diamonds, if you found really cheap diamonds, that means there's less diamonds in here. So they don't work as well and they don't last as long because the resin has to wear away quicker to expose those little bitty pieces of diamonds. So you get what you pay for in life. So be real careful about corner cutting with your tooling. They'll actually cost you a lot more money in labor and shipping and running out of materials. So remember I said, like my mom used to tell me always growing up, and my grandma was a big thing in our family, you get what you pay for in life. So quality tooling can really affect the outcome of your job, cost-wise and the aesthetics of it. So we're going to do 50 resins, then we're going to do 100s, then we're going to do 200s, and then depending on whose product you're using, you're going to stop at the 200 resin, you're going to vacuum the floor, and you're going to put down a hardener densifier. There's lots of questions out there about what's a hardener densifier, and is it really necessary? Dave, do I need to spend my money on this? This isn't a product that national manufacturers sells, but I highly recommend you find a manufacturer that you feel comfortable working with and buy some product from them. Same thing with hardener densifier. When we're talking about cost cutting, there's some guys out there that are selling hardener densifiers that are a lot cheaper. It's just watered down, so stick with quality products. You're going to put that hardener densifier down, and what it does is, it's as basic as I can explain it is, it is liquid sand suspended in water. So now that we've opened up this concrete surface with all these diamonds, we've opened up the porosity, all the little air bubbles from where they turned it in the truck and placed it and vibed it and ran trowels over it. So that hardener densifier will soak into the surface, the sand will fill those holes, and then basically the water evaporates. So you get a much more solid surface and a much more higher PSI surface. I promise you it will make a big difference in the aesthetics when you finish. So now you've done your hardener densifier, follow the directions of whoever's product you're using for application and time, and follow their directions. It's not, everybody's product's different, so make sure that you follow those steps closely. So now we've hardener densified the floor, and I've waited and I've done everything correctly by the directions of that product. Then we're gonna switch to a 400 resin, and we're gonna do an 800, and then we're gonna do a 1500, then we're gonna do a 3000, and then I obviously recommend putting down a lithium protective finish of some kind. That basically is almost like a wax coat on old VCT. It seals the floor, and a lot of times it'll hide those resin marks that get left behind by the grinder turning at such high speed and the floor's so tight and shiny. You apply that according to directions, and then certainly you definitely want to look at a national burnisher, because you want to cook that product onto the floor and you'll get an end result that's just amazing. You can use all kinds of different pads like hog's hair pads or diamond impregnated pads. So choose your burnishing pad for the job that you bid. A hog's hair pad costs a lot less than a diamond impregnated pad, but the results are going to obviously match what you spent on it. So that's a real quick run through on some of the polishing and some of the steps with National's grinders with the Helix and the 8274-4. I'm going to talk about one more quick thing, and it's managing your customers' expectations. I talk a lot about this in my classes that we hold here in Denver, and it's super important. When you polish a floor, you're polishing a floor to celebrate concrete's inconsistencies. Concrete cracks and it's discolored, and they pour trucks here, and then as the day goes on they pour it here, and they finish it slowly here, and then it's, their kid has a baseball game, so the guy running the ride-on trowel hurries it up. So your concrete's never consistent, and it's never flat, and it's never the same color. You need to make sure that your customers understand before you start the job, if there's holes in the floor and you patch them, it's going to stain different, it's going to look different. They need to understand that a solid colored floor that's real consistent, that's called epoxy. And there's a lot of reasons why guys choose epoxy, and there's a lot of good reasons why guys now in today's market choose polishing. But if you're going to choose to polish, I can't encourage you enough to manage your customers' expectations on the front side and the back side. I see this all the time. I finished polishing this floor, and the guy that's going to write me a check, I'm walking him around, and contractors say, well, it looks good except for this spot, and you can see this crack over here, and the color is not the same over there. That's crazy. Stop doing that. Stop it. Stop it. The guy you polish the floor for walks in and sees a beautiful polished floor. So you walk around and tell him, wow, this turned out much better than I thought. This is fantastic. Can I take a picture? I'd like to put it on my website. This is the best polished floor in 9 counties, absolutely hands down. That guy or that person believes you. He doesn't need you to point out the inconsistencies that you already pointed out before you started if you managed his expectations. So be a better contractor by managing your customers' expectations on the front side and on the back side. When you're done, wow, look how great this floor turned out. Trust me, it makes all the difference. And you can really apply that to anything that you're doing when it comes to your contracting. Same thing if you guys are out demoing equipment for contractors, if you're national distribution, manage their expectations. Thank you for joining us today. I had a real good time talking about it. I know this is really condensed, but like I said, there's lots and lots of, just pick up the phone and call National. We will help you. We have so many product experts in this field and many other fields. We're here to help you, and we look forward to talking to you, so pick up the phone and give us a call. And if you guys will stick around for a minute, we're fixing to have a coupon for some diamond tooling discounts that's going to run right after we're done. And let me ask before I go, is there any questions? I'll stick around for a minute or so to see if anybody wants to chat on some questions if I went over something too quickly, or if you have a specific question, you certainly can chat those in now, and I'd be glad to answer those questions. In the meantime, it's a beautiful day in Colorado. It's summer. I'm super excited. It's great to be outdoors, except for right this minute. I'm looking forward to the workday being over so I can go hit some hiking trails. It's beautiful today in Colorado. That's it. I didn't see any questions, so if you guys think of some questions, just ring into the Nationals number and we'll get you taken care of. And stick around for just a second for the coupons, for the discounts. Here they come. Thank you. See you guys again shortly.